Right now on Morning News Now, with less than 100 days to the presidential election, both campaigns are ramping up the rhetoric.
She's a radical left lunatic.
Some of what he and his running mate are saying, well, it's just plain weird.
We've got the latest from the campaign trail and the big announcement from the vice president that could be just days away. Also this morning, tensions in the Middle East are ratcheting up. Israel blaming Hezbollah and vowing a major retaliation following a deadly rocket attack launched from Lebanon, as American diplomats worry escalation could lead to a new front in the war. Plus, California on fire. Families forced to evacuate as crews battle the largest wildfire the West Coast has seen in years. Hundreds of thousands of acres have already been torched, and with the flames showing no signs of slowing, smoke from the fires are now reaching all the way to the East Coast. We've got the latest. And the Olympics are officially underway. So where do things stand after the first weekend of action? We're breaking down all the highlights you may have missed and what you need to know and be on the lookout for the week as it kicks off. Good morning. I'm Emily Ikeda in for Joe and Savannah. We begin this Monday morning with a tightening race for the White House, which is now less than 100 days away. Recent polls show former President Trump and Vice President Harris approaching a dead heat in multiple battleground states. Those polls leading Trump to sharpen his attacks on Harris and the Democratic Party over the weekend. First, at the National Bitcoin Conference in Nashville, he dismissed Harris's recent surge in the polls as a honeymoon phase.
We have a country to run. The problem is that Kamala is worse than Joe. She's worse. She's a radical left lunatic.
Trump and his running mate J.D. Vance also held a rally in Minnesota, the one state where Harris has the biggest lead. But the Republican nominee spent a large part of his speech hurling attacks at President Biden. Meanwhile, Harris's campaign held a fundraiser in Massachusetts Saturday that earned more than $1 million, adding to her massive $200 million fundraising total just 1 week into the race. We have a team joining us this morning to break down all the latest in the race to the White House, including NBC News senior political reporter John Allen, along with NBC News senior White House correspondent Gabe Gutierrez. John and Gabe, good to be with you. Thanks for being here. John, I want to start with you. Minnesota is the one state where VP Harris is currently beating former President Trump, and it's a state that hasn't voted Republican in over 50 years. So why is he focusing his time and energy there? And we're still seeing attacks at Biden.
Yeah, the reason he's spending some time and energy there is that there's been Trump polling over the course of this campaign that shows him competitive there. And certainly in the last weeks of the Biden campaign, before we got a Harris campaign, the numbers there, according to independent pollsters, had closed significantly. So, number one, I think there was already a plan to go to Minnesota and make that a state that that was going to be sort of a battleground, expanding the battleground from where they had been, and he followed through on that plan. We'll have to see what happens with polling. I mean, we're still sort of early in this phase of a new campaign of Harris versus Trump, as opposed to Biden versus Trump.
Yeah, we'll have to watch the numbers closely. Gabe, what a difference a week makes. The Harris campaign seemed to have a successful turnout at its fundraising event this weekend, and it's prioritized trying to win Gen Z support. Walk us through what she had to say and what her main message is to those younger voters right now.
Oh, hey there, Emily. Good morning. Well, yes, it's no secret that President Biden had a difficult time with young voters, and Vice President Harris is really trying to lean into that. Now, over the past couple of days, she's taken more direct attacks on former President Trump and his running mate J.D. Vance, referring to them as weird, also really attacking those comments back from 2021 where J.D. Vance referred to some Democrats as, quote, childless cat ladies. But the vice president and her team are really leaning into social media, trying to win over those Gen Z voters. There's been a lot of memes, of course, the Kamala is brat phenomenon. They're really leaning into that, hoping it might convince some of these younger voters to go out to the polls. And as of now, over the last several days, her main message has been is that young voters deliver the 2020 election to Joe Biden, and she is trying to get that same type of enthusiasm this November, Emily.
Yeah, something tells me this is just the beginning of the memes. John, the polls almost immediately tightened after VP Harris entered the race. But interestingly, her policies are largely the same as Biden. So what's swaying voters' opinions? Why is it becoming a closer matchup between her and Trump versus Trump and Biden?
I mean, right off the bat, you have a candidate in Joe Biden who was struggling so much that he chose not to seek re-election, decided to step aside. Here's a guy who was running for president for basically his entire adult life, who, eventually realized that there was not a path to victory for him. And the reason was Democratic voters were not excited about him. Independent voters were worried about him. Republican voters thought that he should not be in office now, based on his apparent decline. So replace him with somebody who's got energy and enthusiasm, who is not stumbling in public appearances in the same way. And I think that's just in and of itself, a big reason for why you've seen the polls change so quickly. And I would just say the other thing is, Kamala Harris is somebody who Democrats are excited about. That they feel like they can, punch the ticket or pull the lever in the ballot box for her. So, again, we're still early. We haven't even hit Labor Day yet, but the Democratic Party kind of had a 180 on the energy behind its candidate.
And Gabe, let's go back to President Biden for a second. We know he's headed to Texas today. What can we expect out of that trip?
Well, this is a trip, Emily, that was rescheduled a couple of weeks ago following the assassination attempt on former President Trump. And President Biden is set to speak today to commemorate the 60th anniversary of the Civil Rights Act over at the LBJ Library in Texas. But just this morning, he has published an op-ed in the Washington Post, and we expect to hear more about this throughout the day, where he is proposing several Supreme Court reforms. It's been a message that the White House has been touting over the last several weeks. And among those reforms, including term limits for Supreme Court justices and also a binding code of ethics for the Supreme Court. Of course, this comes after the Supreme Court rendered that decision on presidential immunity several months ago. And the president has really focused in on this message. But, Emily, it's very unlikely at this point to pass the Republican-controlled House. But Democrats feel that this will be a winning message come November, Emily.
Now, John, before we let you go, perhaps the biggest question of the week, VP Harris has yet to announce a running mate. Do you believe at this point she is any closer to a decision? When do you think it could come? And who do you think some of the favorites are at this point?
Yeah, it's bad news for her that Simone Biles is too young to be vice president. But and actually, most of the Olympic athletes are too young to be vice president. Look, we've seen a whole group of governors and one senator in particular, Mark Kelly from Arizona, Governor Cooper, as he pronounces it, from North Carolina, Shapiro from Pennsylvania, Beshear from Kentucky. I don't have a crystal ball, and my sources have not told me who they think it will be, or at least nobody said that they know who it's going to be. So, we will find out here within the next several days.
Yeah, who doesn't love Simone Biles, right? John, Gabe, thank you so much for joining me this morning.
Thanks.
All right, this morning, world leaders are urging restraint as Israel decides how it will respond to a rocket strike that killed 12 young people in the Israeli-occupied Golan Heights. Israel blames Hezbollah for the attack and is vowing to respond, but the militant group has denied responsibility. The victims were from the Druze community, an Arab sect that practices an offshoot of Islam. Most live in Syria and Lebanon, but more than 20,000 also live in the occupied Golan Heights. NBC News international correspondent Kelly Kobiea joins us now. Kelly, last night Israel said it would decide on the, quote, manner and timing of its response, but we've already seen some attacks on Lebanon since Saturday, right? What's the latest there?
That's right. There was an Israeli drone strike outside the southern Lebanese town of Shakra just this morning. 2 people killed, 3 injured, according to the Lebanese civil defense. Saturday's rocket attack on that soccer field set off a series of retaliatory strikes throughout the weekend. The Israeli Defense Forces said they hit 7 targets deep inside Lebanese territory. Hezbollah said it hit Israeli military positions in northern Israel, quote, in response to the enemy's aggression. And all of this after that devastating strike on the soccer field Saturday evening in the Israeli-occupied Golan Heights. There's a bomb shelter just a few yards from the soccer field, but residents said there was just no time to reach it. They say the sirens sounded just moments before the blast. Now, Israel says at least a dozen children and teenagers were killed in that blast. They blamed Hezbollah for it, claiming that rocket fragments on site are from a type only used by Hezbollah. But Hezbollah says it was firing rockets at Israel Saturday, but has denied involvement in that strike. Emily.
Yeah, the domino effect well underway. Talk to us about the diplomatic efforts we've seen from the U.S. and other countries to try and stop the conflict from broadening to Lebanon. Yeah, many world leaders urging calm right now. Secretary of State Blinken among them in Tokyo, saying there was every indication that the rockets that hit the soccer field were from Hezbollah. He also said he was deeply saddened by the loss of life, but again, urging restraint. Take a listen.
We're in conversations with the government of Israel. And again, I emphasize its right to defend its citizens and our determination to make sure that they're able to do that. But we also don't want to see the conflict escalate. We don't want to see it spread.
And that is a real risk. Again, it's been a risk all along, ever since those attacks on October 7th. Benjamin Netanyahu, the Israeli prime minister, is vowing to strike back using very firm language. He said that Hezbollah would pay a heavy price, heavier than they've paid before. He met with his political security cabinet on Sunday, rushing back from Washington, D.C., leaving the U.S. a few hours early, in fact, to get back to Israel and meet with top security officials. That risk of escalation is a real worry for people around the world, for leaders in the U.S. as well. Of course, it's rising today, with the IDF even warning over the weekend that they are in the brink of an all-out war against Hezbollah. This is the kind of thing that leaders in the U.S. and elsewhere have been worried about throughout, and the kind of thing, once again, that they're trying desperately to prevent this morning. Emily.
And Kelly, it was also a deadly weekend in Gaza. Our NBC News teams inside the enclave captured the aftermath of a devastating Israeli airstrike on a school. What are you learning about that?
Yes, this war obviously continues. An Israeli airstrike hit a girls' school in central Gaza. It was being used as a shelter by displaced people. The aftermath caught on camera by our NBC News team, and you saw just these very sad images of parents looking for their children, distraught children, a lot of debris, a lot of very disturbing images. At least 30 people were killed, according to Gaza health officials. Now, Israel, for its part, says that they were targeting a Hamas command and control center used to store weapons and plan attacks. Emily.
Kelly, thanks so much for all those details. This morning, firefighters in Northern California are trying to get a handle on one of the largest wildfires in the state's history. The fast-moving fire has already charred more than 360,000 acres, destroyed dozens of structures, and is so big you can see it from space. NBC News correspondent Steve Patterson is in Chico, California, with the latest.
Yeah, you have to remember that this started just as a small brush fire a few days ago. We watched it grow from 60,000 acres to 160,000 acres, now to more than 360,000 acres, the seventh largest wildfire in California history, the largest active fire that is currently burning. It's destroyed dozens of homes and structures, up to 66 now, displaced thousands of people, including people that had to be evacuated years ago for that deadliest, most destructive wildfire in California history. The Camp Fire. This fire also now being investigated as an arson. There's a 42-year-old man now in police custody. All of this while this fire continues its rapid expanse, really growing so big, so fast on all fronts that the primary operation right now is just to slow it down. Thankfully, the weather is cooperating. It's been a lot cooler than it had been the past few days, allowing firefighters to get some containment on it. We're now up to 12%. But the big fear here is that the largest fire currently burning will only get larger. There is fresh, bone-dry fuel in all directions for this fire to burn, and the worry is that this could last for months. Back to you.
Steve, thanks so much. We'll be watching those weather conditions in the days to come. In Paris this morning, we're now entering day 3 of Olympic events after a thrilling opening weekend with the world's best athletes on display. The Summer Games have delivered on all of the excitement through the first days of competition. We've already witnessed jaw-dropping moments of drama, photo finishes, and plenty of smiles on top of the podium. It's been a bright start for Team USA, who currently leads the medal count among all nations, and with superstars like Simone Biles and Coco Gauff owning the spotlight with impressive performances, there's a lot to look forward to as we get ready for another full day of events. NBC News correspondent Jay Gray joins us live from Paris with all the headlines from a busy weekend at the Olympics. What an incredible gig, Jay. I've been watching the Olympics all weekend. Team USA wasted no time picking up their first medals of this year's Summer Games. Walk us through the excitement so far and what the top moments have been. I know it'll be hard to choose.
Yeah. Emily, yeah, it's been amazing the fast start that Team USA has gotten off to here. It's great for the team. Everyone watching, everyone here who had the chance to make a trip. The Americans so excited. They're winning in the water, as we expected, in the pool. They've won in the mountains, mountain biking. And maybe you can tell this, something I had in my closet, I threw it on this morning. But they're also winning in a place we don't always expect. Look. They are winning in fencing. Team USA fencing taking a stab at history last night, and boy, was it a strong win. Lee Kiefer with the gold, Lauren Scruggs with the silver. 1-2 for America in that event, and that's been one of the most exciting things to see here. Look, it's the first time ever an American woman in foil has gone back-to-back gold, and the first time we ever had an All-American final in that event, so that has been great to see. One of those events that you don't think a lot about, that you don't hear a lot from the Americans about, and also I can tell you from talking to the folks here in France, one they are really proud of. They feel like they should be the strongest when it comes to foil and fencing, and they're impressed with the wins by Team USA, so that's been neat to see as well. But by far the pool has been the place where the Americans have found the most as far as gold, silver, and bronze is concerned, Emily. And 5 more chances tonight, by the way.
Jay, your commitment to the assignment, the puns, it's unmatched. This is incredible. I am obsessed with this uniform you're wearing. We also saw several
I apologize.
Of Team USA's biggest stars deliver in their early events so far. That includes the return of Simone Biles to the world's biggest stage. What were the highlights and what's next for those athletes?
Oh, my goodness. I mean, look, that was amazing to see yesterday. The American women's team on top as far as qualifying as in the team competition. And then Simone Biles yesterday. I mean, she leads all individuals in points right now in the team competition, moving to the medal round tomorrow. And she yesterday went through the routine that in Tokyo she realized she had the twisties. She nailed it. It was beautiful to see, and her smile beaming afterwards, unbelievable. You could tell this was something she was thinking about, something that was at least in the back of her mind, and she pushed through, and it was so cool to see.
And Jay, there are several more swimming medals up for grabs later today. I know that is one of the highly watched events. What are the biggest events scheduled, and what will you be watching and looking out for on day 3?
Yeah, and let me get to that. I've got to put on my reading glasses to make sure I get everything right here. The women's 400 IM. Katie Grimes is just a beast in that. So look for Katie Grimes in the women's 400 IM today. You've got the men's 200 free. You've got the men's 100 back. And team captain Ryan Murray in that. He is a multiple-time Olympian and medal winner. He is going to be strong there. The women's breaststroke, Lily King. She is someone who should medal in this event. That should be a lot of fun and something that Team USA is strong at. And then you got the women's 200 free. So a lot of chances in the mix in the pool again right now. That's going to be a place where we continue to watch and continue to see the Americans going on great strides. The weather here in Paris has been phenomenal, unless, Emily, you're wearing a suit from USA Fencing. It's about 206 degrees.
Jay, I think what you're telling me is that I'll see you in LA 2028, right? We'll see you competing out there.
You know, I'm an alternate right now, so maybe. You never know.
Fingers crossed. We're rooting for you, Jay Gray. Thank you so much from Paris. Oh, my gosh, I even got his name. That's awesome. All right, well, there is a new energy at this year's Olympics. Now that the COVID restrictions are a thing of the past, friends and family of athletes are making a roaring return to the Games. Here's my touching conversation with one Olympic family. In Paris, the streets are packed and so are the stands. This Olympics already looks and sounds drastically different from the last one, when athletes competed in eerily quiet venues in Tokyo because of COVID. Coaches stepped in as cheerleaders, while friends and family celebrated thousands of miles away, relishing in victories over emotional video calls. In 2021, Amy and Mike Parado watched from home as their daughter Jessica won a silver in synchronized diving.
We were sitting on the couch watching it at 3 o'clock in the morning. And I don't remember much about, other than being overwhelmingly emotional that happened.
This was the moment they held her medal for the first time when she brought it to Minnesota.
That's a lot of work.
Pretty amazing, huh?
To me, it's like their medal as well. So it's just every single person, especially my family, who have been there with me from the very beginning, that I just attribute that success to them.
We see her as our daughter, you know, playing around, running around as a kid, having fun, flipping off our couch and ruining our living room. To go to the Olympics is just incredible.
Now 30, Jessica will hurdle, pike, and somersault into her third Olympic Games. And this time, her #1 fans,
Headed to Paris. Let's go.
and so many other families will get to watch their favorite athletes go for gold from the stands.
Will it be emotional for you?
Oh, it's always emotional. I just want to see them have fun and do their best. And if they get a medal, great.
If this is the end, if this is her last go-around, I don't want to miss 1 second of what she's doing.
And you get to see it in person.
Yes.
Yes.
Making memories for the athletes and their families. Jessica Parado and her partner Delaney Schnell are set to compete on Wednesday. You can bet I'll be watching on NBC and Peacock. All right, let's get to your morning news now. Weather. Millions across the plains are under alerts. Plus, we're tracking air quality concerns for parts of the country as those flames we mentioned earlier continue to scorch the west. Meteorologist Michelle Grossman joins us now. Hey there, Michelle.
Emily, so good to see you. And yeah, we have a lot to talk about today because we are looking at temperatures in the plains well above normal for this time of year, into the upper 90s, the 100s. You factor in the humidity, it will feel like 110 plus. So that's a big story in the middle of the country. And then, of course, out west, we're continuing to watch that fire threat. We have really hazy skies, and that smoke is moving off to the east, so impacting portions of the northern plains and also the Midwest. And then look what's happening in most of the east. We have the chance for showers and storms. Most of these are not all-day storms and showers, but still we're going to be very unsettled all week long. We do need the rain, though, in some spots. We're going to see heavy rain in portions of the Appalachians. Could see some strong storms in parts of Illinois, Indiana, also Kentucky, and then also in parts of the northern plains and also northern Nebraska. Let's start with the fire danger because we do have red flag warnings once again, where you see this red shading. So Glasgow, Idaho, Casper, Cedar City, down to Bakersfield. We're really dry once again. We have lots of fires burning that is impacting the air quality. And this wind is carrying this smoke all the way to the plains and also the Midwest. There was reports also of some in New England as well. We remember that from last year. And we're looking at air quality alerts where you see this orange shading. That's where we have some poor air quality. What does that mean? Well, if you are sensitive, you want to stay indoors. And really, if you're not sensitive, you want to keep those windows closed, keep the doors closed, stay in air conditioning if you can, and kind of avoid that outdoor air as much as you can. Now, as far as the heat alerts go, we have 28 million people impacted. And this is building heat as we go through the next couple of days. We have heat warnings, we have heat watches, heat advisories, all sorts of colors on there, indicating that we are heating up over the next few days. Omaha, St. Louis, Wichita, Oklahoma City, Memphis, Dallas, down to Jackson. You will be heating up again into the triple digits in many spots, if not the upper 90s. Rapid City 97, that's 10 degrees above normal for this time of year. Lubbock 99, El Paso 102, 8 degrees above what is typical for this time of year. And then watch what happens tomorrow. We're still warm and we're expanding that heat. Phoenix 107, Roswell 105, so many triple digits, 104 as we're looking places in Wichita, 98 degrees in St. Louis, Milwaukee 86, and Sioux Falls temperatures in the 90s as well. We're going to keep it warm as we head throughout most of the rest of the week. Amarillo into the triple digits all week long. Dallas, sort of the same story. Minus will be at 100 degrees on Wednesday. You're going to top out probably around 99, but still in the triple digits Thursday and Friday. And that warm weather is going to prompt some severe storms along with a front that's moving through. So places in the Dakotas, also northern Nebraska, could see some strong storms, as well as parts of Kentucky, Indiana, into Illinois as well. Where you see that yellow shading, that's where we're looking at the chance for those storms. Could see winds gusting up to 60 miles per hour. Large hail, 2 inches or greater. Also the chance of a few isolated tornadoes. We're going to keep that threat, unfortunately, in place tomorrow in portions of the Midwest and also parts of the Ohio Valley once again. Des Moines, Davenport, Springfield could see some strong storms tomorrow. This is what radar looks like right now. We have some strong storms moving through portions of the Midwest. You see that lightning there, also some heavy rain. Those are the darker colors there. And we're looking at a whole lot of rain in some spots. Excessive rainfall is possible in parts of Kentucky, especially where you see those darker colors, the reds, the oranges, the yellows once again. And that includes parts of the Ohio Valley as well. Could locally see up to 3 3 inches through Tuesday. But a lot of the east could see some light rain. So you need to keep that umbrella handy as we head throughout the next couple of days. We're not going to have those heavy downpours that we need to kind of hydrate that grass, but still we'll see unsettled weather throughout the next couple of days. And this is why we have a front that's moving through slowly, as these fronts continue to do this summer. That's going to keep us a little unsettled. At least most of the east will be unsettled.
All right, Michelle, thank you so much. It always amazes me how much you see those wildfires, the smoke, impacts coast to coast.
It is crazy. And don't you remember that last summer, like you walked outside, it's like,
oh, absolutely.
That smell, right? You think it was
the
like
smell,
your neighbors.
And then it can get really intense, like the orange hues.
Yeah,
so we'll
I
have
know,
to watch that
eerie.
closely. Yeah, absolutely. All right. Welcome back. After a legal battle that has lasted years, Iowa's 6-week abortion ban is set to take effect today. The state law restricts abortions after what it calls a detectable fetal heartbeat, roughly 6 weeks into pregnancy, before many women know they are pregnant. The measure was passed in the wake of the Supreme Court's Dobbs decision that ended the protections of Roe v. Wade 2 years ago. Iowa's Supreme Court ruled last month that the ban could go into effect. A lot of moving pieces here. So joining us now for more on this is NBC News correspondent Adrian Broaddus and NBC News Now legal analyst Angela Senadella. Good morning to you both. Adrian, let's start with you. According to the policy and research organization, the Guttmacher Institute, which supports abortion access, more than 4,000 abortions were performed in Iowa in 2023. With this ban now in effect, what impact will these new restrictions have in Iowa?
Good morning to you, Emily. We could see a significant drop. You talked about 4,000 abortions that were performed. Abortion experts say they already are expecting to see that number decline significantly. And when the number declines in Iowa, the expectation, or they are anticipating, that women seeking abortion in Iowa will go to some of the surrounding areas. For example, here in Illinois, they've already created avenues and pathways for these women who may be fleeing the state of Iowa. I do want our viewers to hear from the state representative who co-authored this bill, which becomes law in the next 30 minutes there in the state of Iowa. She says they do have measures in place for women who are not able to get abortions. Listen in.
We anticipate that we will see a surge of patients from Iowa into Illinois. The reality is we know abortion bans and restrictions don't decrease patients' needs for abortion. They just put additional burdens on patients to get the care that they need and deserve.
And that was Jennifer Welch, who you just heard from. She is with Planned Parenthood, and she heard her there discussing what they are expecting and how they will move forward. Meanwhile, there are some restrictions, some limitations. If a woman is a victim of rape or incest, for example, certain abortions will be allowed. Emily?
Yeah, that's a great point. Angela, let's get into the details of the law. As Adrian just mentioned, there are exceptions for rape, incest, fetal abnormalities, and medical emergencies. So I think one of the questions is, who will have to decide when the medical emergency exception is valid, and how will this affect patients and healthcare providers?
Hey, Emily. So yes, there are indeed some limited medical exceptions, but this onus, the burden, is really heavily being placed upon doctors to make those decisions. So even with the exceptions of rape and incest, first of all, they have to be reported, rape within 45 days, incest within 140 days, but also the doctor who may or may not be performing this abortion also has to investigate and ask the victim for facts and try to see what actually happened in an attempt to verify. Furthermore, with the fetal abnormality that is incompatible with life, and also the possible physical endangerment of the pregnant mother's life, those are also incredibly subjective. And even though the Iowa Medical Board has produced guidelines to try to guide doctors through this, they still can't possibly cover every possibility. So what that means then is that doctors have to make these decisions, and if not, they face criminal prosecution. However, because doctors likely didn't enter this industry, this profession, to toe that line of possibly being prosecuted, that means that doctors overall are likely going to be much less willing to perform abortions, even if they could possibly meet these exceptions, Emily.
And Adrian, as we heard in your interview with Planned Parenthood, their organization has said that it's expanding abortion access in surrounding areas in anticipation of this policy change in Iowa. So what kind of changes are being made and how will this impact states around Iowa?
Well, one major change, Planned Parenthood has 18 clinics. 3 of those clinics were added within the last year. because of the growing demand that they are anticipating. If you take a look at your screen right now, you can see some of the abortion laws by state. The dark blue shows where it's legal and or protected, and you see the orange areas there showing restrictions. That's a big portion of the country. So in surrounding areas, for example, here in Illinois and even Minnesota, they are preparing for an increase in the number of women who are seeking abortion. When you break it down and look at it, 6 weeks is a time frame when some women have no idea that they are pregnant. Before, it was at least 20 weeks. So there are procedures and plans in place to help deal with this increase of patients. Emily?
Yeah, we continue to see these laws continue to evolve. Angela, with this law in effect, could Iowa go further and pass a law to pursue charges against women who leave the state after 6 weeks to seek an abortion? Have other states tried this since Dobbs?
Yes, so we are starting to see other states like Texas try this, and it's largely in this field of preventing minor trafficking in the name of an abortion. However, I will say this, that if this will eventually get to the Supreme Court. All of these laws that are starting to take place are being challenged. And when they get to the Supreme Court, I do believe that they will be swiftly denied and swiftly overturned, largely because even Justice Kavanaugh, we know, is part of this conservative majority in the concurrence to Dobbs, which is the decision that overturned Roe v. Wade. He said, look, any attempts at an interstate travel ban are blatantly unconstitutional, and it's really not even a question here. It's black and white. So I believe these bans will be overturned.
All right, a lot to watch for. Adrienne Broaddus and Angela Sanadella, thank you both so much. Let's get to some international news, starting with fallout from a controversial presidential election in Venezuela. NBC News foreign correspondent Claudio Lavanga has the latest on that and other world headlines. Good morning, Claudio.
Good morning, Emily. That's right. Nicolas Maduro was declared the winner of Venezuela's presidential elections. Now, shortly after midnight, the Venezuelan National Electoral Council said Maduro secured 51% of the vote to edge out his opponent, Edmundo González Urrutia. The result was a blow for those hoping for an end of Maduro's controversial 11-year presidency, but not everyone is accepting the result. The opposition is calling out what they say are irregularities at the polls, putting political tensions in Venezuela at a new high. Even U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken expressed his own serious concerns about the result. But despite pushback, Maduro joined this crowd of supporters to celebrate and demand respect from what he calls the people's choice. Now to the Democratic Republic of Congo, where more than 400 prisoners were released from the country's largest jail in the capital, Kinshasa. The move is meant to address overcrowding. Makala prison was originally built to hold about 1,500 inmates back in 1957, but it recently reportedly held about 15,000. The latest reform efforts are all thanks to a formerly detained journalist who shared cell phone pictures of the dire conditions on X, sparking an outcry. Hundreds of people or more are expected to be released under review for a conditional release in an effort to improve conditions. Now we end this tour on the catwalk where female Olympians hit the runway for the first ever gender-equal Olympic Games fashion show. And it's all in celebration of the first Olympic Games in history where an equal number of men and women are competing. Current and former female athletes strut their stuff Olympic style. The moment is also serendipitous because the 1900 Games in Paris was the first ever Olympics where women were allowed to compete. Athletes say that we still have some work to do, but in the meantime, in the words of Queen Bee, well, we all know who really runs the world. Girls. Emily?
That's a way to end a story right there. Beyonce quote. Claudio, thank you so much.
Yep.
Coming up, more women dealing with breast cancer diagnoses are opting for a double mastectomy. But new research shows the procedure may not boost survival rates. We're digging into the research next. Turning now to some major medical news for breast cancer patients. New data shows a double mastectomy may not improve survival chances for women. The study, published in JAMA Oncology last week, showed women who had just the tumor or one breast removed did just as well compared to women with a double mastectomy. But the study didn't come without its complications. Doctors also found survivors who ended up developing cancer in the opposite breast did have a higher risk of death. NBC News medical contributor Dr. Kavita Patel joins me now for more on this. Dr. Patel, I feel like everyone knows someone who's been affected by breast cancer. Walk us through this study. These results, to me, feel a little bit like a paradox. Why aren't women with a double mastectomy seeing improved chances of survival?
Yeah, Emily, so a lot to unpack here very briefly. The reason I think we think about a double mastectomy making sense is because if you have cancer in one breast, and often because of the risk of recurrence or some sort of new cancer developing in the other breast is about 7%, you might logically think, why would I even want to take that chance? Why not just get the double mastectomy, especially if you're having a procedure done in one breast? What these researchers found is that after looking over 600,000 breast cancer patients who had cancer on one side, Emily, they found that it made no difference to do anything to that other breast except aggressive breast cancer screening. That gets into some of the complications that you mentioned. By the way, a group that should not heed this advice are people with some of the special breast cancer genes that we've talked about before on the show, BRCA1, BRCA2. You're in a different category if you have that genetic risk. This really applies, though, to the majority of Americans who get breast cancer who do not have a genetic risk.
So let's talk about what options women do have to keep breast cancer from spreading or reoccurring. Do women have a choice in the type of treatment they receive?
They do. And of course, every breast surgeon and breast cancer doctor is going to talk about all of these choices, including surgery in the other breast that does not have cancer. But the majority of patients that do prevent any sort of cancer recurring usually have hormone therapy and chemotherapy in addition to any procedure in the affected breast. And when we talk about those statistics, 7% in the other breast or 7% of recurrence of cancer, what they found, Emily, is that it's likely from that same breast, that original cancer, either spreading beyond the breast or cells that were not totally removed with surgery, even though that's rare. So again, we're talking about screening and breast cancer detection. That includes mammography and other breast imaging to really help prevent any sort of cancer recurrence in the same breast or in the other one.
And I think it's important to note the results of this study don't apply to everyone who has breast cancer. Why might this be different for women who have, say, a gene variant BRCA1 or BRCA2? Do researchers believe those patients should consider a double mastectomy?
Yeah, those patients are considered at a different type of genetic risk, not only of breast cancer, but there are some additional cancers in addition to the breast that they could be at risk for. That genetic risk, Emily, places them not only at additional risk of having their same breast cancer recur, but it can have a higher risk of a totally new and different kind of cancer. So those are patients for which, again, chemotherapy, hormone therapy, possibly surgery in both breasts, as well as additional surgeries might be useful. Recent celebrities, including Olivia Munn, who were not tested positive for the breast cancer gene, opted to have that double mastectomy. I think, again, this comes down to the individual patient and that conversation with their doctor.
Dr. Kavita Patel, who, by the way, is joining us from Paris. Thank you so much. Have a croissant for me.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Coming up, getting into an Ivy League school is a major accomplishment for any high school student. But one New York teen got into all 8. And that's not all. We're sitting down with the Wonderkin to discuss where she's heading for the fall semester. That's next. All right, we're back now with some money news. And last week, things weren't looking so great for investors over on Wall Street. But could the tides turn this week? CNBC's Silvana Hanau joins us now with predictions for the week ahead, plus some other money headlines. Hey there, Silvana.
Hey, Emily, good morning to you. Well, Wall Street could face a major test this week with an onslaught of earnings reports and economic data. The markets are coming off quite a volatile week as investors sold off shares of mega cap tech names and growth names. The Nasdaq falling more than 2%. Now, as for the week ahead, look for reports on housing and the labor market, and it's topped off by the July jobs report number on Friday. The Federal Reserve announces its latest interest rate decision on Wednesday, and roughly a third of the Dow and the S&P 500 report earnings, including 4 tech giants, Meta, Microsoft, Apple, and Amazon. Fast food chains are fighting for your dollars with a slew of summer value meals. Spiking menu prices have scared away lower-income consumers, and discounts may be the only way to lure them back. But analysts are skeptical the value meals will drive meaningful sales growth without eating into profit. McDonald's, which launched its $5 value menu in June, reports earning today. And Disney's Deadpool and Wolverine dominating the box office this weekend with an estimated $205 million, according to ComScore. That's the strongest ever opening for an R-rated movie and the first such Marvel film released by Disney. It's also the best opening weekend of the year, topping Disney and Pixar's Inside Out 2. Hollywood's reliance on sequels is the latest attempt to reignite the box office after shutdowns during the pandemic and strike delays, Emily.
Listen, I know Taylor Swift gave it her stamp of approval. You can't get a better endorsement than that. This is officially on my list to watch.
Yeah, right. Me too. Me too.
Savannah, thank you so much.
You got it.
In just a few weeks, colleges and universities will once again welcome a new class of freshmen. Most students spend months waiting for the coveted yes to gain entrance to these elite institutions. But one Bronx science student defied the odds by receiving 28, I'll say that again, 28 acceptance letters, which included all 8 Ivy League schools. And joining me now is that star-studded student, Milena Galetto. Milena, good morning. First, congratulations. How did it feel receiving all those letters in the mail? Yes, yes, yes. At a certain point, were you surprised or were you like, okay, I guess I'm getting another yes here?
Good morning. It was absolutely incredible. I couldn't believe it. You know, going into this college application process, you're told by your counselors, your teachers, to expect you're going to get accepted to some schools, you're going to get waitlisted at some and rejected by the rest. So once I started getting those yeses, congratulations, we expect you in the fall, it was honestly unbelievable. And I kept telling myself, bracing myself, oh, you're going to get that first rejection. And I kept bracing myself and it never came. And I'm absolutely, I'm unbelieved. Like, I can't believe it.
That's amazing. Of course, this is a major accomplishment, but it's important to underscore, this really came with a lot of hard work. You had an incredible workload your senior year. Walk us through just how much time and effort you spent on these applications. How were you able to juggle everything?
Well, so the application process is a culmination of 4 years of work throughout high school. So it's all the classes I've taken from freshman year to senior year, all the extracurriculars, all my effort. So I practically had no free time or things besides extracurriculars in school. And I won't lie, it was very difficult to balance schoolwork and things outside of school. I was a captain on the speech and debate team. I founded a gender equity board at my school. So it was a lot of these things, and as well as keeping up with your grades. So it was a lot of juggling, and you can't let one thing slip because the application is holistic and includes all of these things.
A woman of many talents. You mentioned your parents as being one of the reasons why you were able to succeed. Tell me, how much did they help you on this journey?
I think the most important thing they did to me is teach me the importance of prioritizing your studies and your school. My parents are immigrants from Argentina, and they didn't get to go to college. So from a young age, they've always been teaching me that school always has to be my #1 priority. And it's something that I kept with me throughout my 17 years on this planet. So I'm eternally grateful for that.
Milena, I am so interested to hear this. Have you made a decision on where you're heading in the fall? And do you have an idea of what you want to study?
In the fall, I will be attending Harvard University.
Wow.
Which I can't believe I get to say that. And I will be studying government and physics.
That is so incredible. Milena Galetto, thank you so much. Good luck to you in the fall. Thanks for spending your morning with us.
Thank you so much.
Alrighty, coming up, breakdancing is making its Olympic debut at the 2024 Games. But how did it go from the streets of New York to the City of Lights? We're breaking it all down. Next. We're back Now, with the newest event at this year's Olympics, one that's bringing some modern flair to the historic city of Paris. Breakdancing is one of the only sports to make its debut here at the 2024 Summer Games and was even featured as part of the opening ceremony spectacle. NBC News chief international correspondent Keir Simmons takes a look at how all the spins, twirls, and flips made their way from the streets of New York to the world's biggest stage.
It's one of the newest sports at the Olympics and arguably one of the most exciting. Breakdancing, or breaking, will make its Olympic debut at this year's Games. The venue? Paris's iconic Place de la Concorde. A long way from breaking's roots, on cardboard mats in 1970s New York. Around the world, breakdancers, known as B-boys and B-girls, have been preparing for battle, including America's own Sunny Choi, speaking to NBC News in April.
And now you're going to Paris. I am. Now I'm going to Paris. Oh, my gosh.
But what exactly is breaking? And how do you win at it? We spoke to London-based breakdancer, or breaker, Chedu Anya.
So with breaking, there's four main elements. You've got top rock. This is the element where you're on your feet, so it's the standing up part of the dance. You've also got footwork, so counterintuitively, this is where you're on your hands and your feet on the floor. You also have freezes, so this can be something as simple as just posing, so it would look like you're posing for a camera. Then you also have power moves, the more dynamic elements, so this will be moves where you're flying through the air, where you're spinning. And with all of these moves, people can combine these elements to invent new moves. So the idea is they always try to create something new and be original.
Breaking has long been competitive. Dance battles were once a way for rival New York gangs to let off steam. At the Olympics, athletes will go up against each other to show off their routines in one-on-one battles known as throwdowns, as seen here in the 2018 Youth Olympics. Contestants are scored on creativity, personality, technique, variety, performativity, and musicality. But how do you really score big? Back in 2022, I spoke to some French breakers to find out.
What are the skills that will get the most points in the Olympics?
The most important thing is to give your soul and your heart when you're dancing.
Oh my goodness, I can't do this!
Keir Simmons, NBC News, Paris.
Always appreciate the effort from Keir. And finally, with the eyes of the world on Paris, NBC sports reporter Kira Dixon takes a seat to get a look at a cornerstone of the city's history and culture, the cafe.
Flâner en terrasse, the French art of sitting at a cafe all day and watching the world go by.
Since the 1600s, cafe culture has been an integral part of French life. Think Hemingway, de Beauvoir, and Sartre. For countless intellectuals and artists, cafe life has served as a proving ground for inspiration, if those walls could talk. Café du Flore, founded in 1870, is perhaps the most iconic Parisian cafe. Situated in one of the most en vogue districts of Paris, Saint-Germain.
All right, so I'm sitting in the exact spot where Sartre would sit, order a glass of red wine, or a few, write for hours, and just watch the world go by.
When it comes to the menu, it's not just about your morning caffeine. From pastries to chocolat chaud to classic French dishes like croque madame and monsieur, but perhaps the most popular order.
Wine is the first thing like a lot of people can order, and a lot of people order the snails and the frog legs because that's like typically French.
Escargot.
Escargot, exactly.
For the French, it's been said that the cafe is the primary theater of everyday life.
It's like social media before social media. You have a lot of story at the bar that's typical French.
It just seems like it's such a special part of being French.
That's French.
cafe culture has stood the test of time. For generations, it's been a place for conversation, inspiration, and for love.
After all, cafe culture isn't limited to Parisians. It's a global phenomenon for every Olympic fan to enjoy.
Merci.
À votre santé.
Chin chin?
Chin chin. Santé.
Merci.
Our thanks to Kira Dixon for that story. That does it for this hour of Morning News Now. The news continues right now. Good morning. Thanks for spending your Monday with us. I'm Emily Ikeda in for Joe and Savannah. Right now on Morning News Now, state of emergency. Firefighters in Northern California scrambling to contain a massive wildfire this morning that's now grown to become one of the largest in the state's history. Hundreds of thousands of acres already torched after just a few days. Dozens of homes destroyed. We're on the ground with how crews are fighting to gain the upper hand. The race for the White House is also intensifying this morning, with polls showing Vice President Harris and former President Trump now neck and neck in some key battleground states. We'll bring you the latest from the campaign trail as Mr. Trump ramps up his rhetoric and Democrats hone in on Trump's controversial running mate, Ohio Senator J.D. Vance. Plus, a potential medical breakthrough this morning that could help doctors diagnose Alzheimer's faster and more accurately. What you need to know about a new series of blood tests and why some might work better than others. And we'll bring you everything from Paris that you might have missed over the weekend, including a closer look at how all those precious and prized metals go from raw material to raw emotion on the podium. We start out west this morning, where thousands of firefighters are facing another tough day, battling a massive fire in the mountains of Northern California. The wildfire exploding in size over the weekend, forcing dozens of people from their homes. NBC News correspondent Steve Patterson is in Chico, California, and has the very latest.
This morning, crews scrambling to gain the upper hand on a rapidly expanding firefight. The park fire has already blackened over 360,000 acres, quickly becoming one of the largest in California's history. The size and intensity of the flames generating so-called fire tornadoes, destroying dozens of homes in mountain communities of Northern California that are all too familiar with disasters like this.
There is so much trauma in our community. It wears on our first responders, firefighters, law enforcement.
New satellite images showing how a small fire sparked by a suspected arsonist exploded into a sprawling behemoth, burning through thousands of acres an hour across multiple counties. Firefighters working around the clock.
The line, of course, is the highway. They're trying to push the flames back as far as they can away from community centers.
It's just one of more than 110 active fires burning across the West. Wildfire smoke seen as far as New England. With other extreme weather in the South, severe flooding in Tennessee even reaching Dollywood, a road outside Dolly Parton's iconic park collapsing, and guests wading through water inside. After a local flash flood warning, drivers now urged to use caution, but authorities say the park will reopen later today.
Our thanks to Steve Patterson for that report. Thankfully, the weather is allowing for some containment on the fire, but officials fear it could soon get even bigger and last for months. Our extreme weather track continues with the latest on a disturbance gaining some momentum in the tropics. Meteorologist Michelle Grossman joins us with the details on that and everything else you can expect for the week ahead. Michelle, good morning.
Good morning, Emily. So good to see you. And yeah, the tropics are starting to heat up again. We were really quiet for a while, but we are watching one disturbance. I'll show you that in just a minute, but we are also a little busy across the country as well. We'll start out west because we are talking about those wildfires. We have the smoke from the wildfires. So hazy sun in the Intermountain West, and that smoke is reaching places like the Northern Plains and also the Midwest. We have air quality alerts. If we get to that, I'll show you that as well. But you just want to keep your windows closed, your doors closed, exercise inside if you can, especially if you are sensitive to smoke and any air particulates. In the middle of the country, this is a big story too. We're toasty. We're looking at temperatures building as we head throughout today, tomorrow, and really really keeping those temperatures warm throughout the rest of the week. We'll rise into the 90s, the 100s, and 10, even 20 degrees above normal for this time of year. You factor in the humidity, it will feel like 110 plus there. So that's dangerous heat. And then as we head towards the east, you can see most of the east will be unsettled today, tomorrow, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. We need the rain, but you need to keep the umbrella handy as we head throughout the next couple of days. Could see some storms, too, also throughout the Dakotas, portions of northern Nebraska, throughout parts of Illinois, Indiana, and also Kentucky. But the main story will be the rain that will be falling. Could see excessive rainfall in parts of the Appalachians, but that rainfall does extend from New England throughout portions of the Northeast into the Southeast. Again, not a whole day rain, but still unsettled over the next few days. This is Wednesday, still dry, still warm in the west, the Intermountain West, still dealing with those wildfires. Heat building once again in the middle of the country. It's going to stay in place for a while here. Temperatures in the 100s, once again, feeling warmer than that once you factor in the humidity. Rain extending from the northern plains, the upper Midwest, into the Midwest, parts of the Ohio Valley, and also much of the east once again, from New England all the way down to the Northeast, the Mid-Atlantic, into the Southeast. We're going to be soggy, and we will need that umbrella on Wednesday as well as Friday. There's that rain once again. You see the green in parts of the Northeast into the Carolinas, the Ohio Valley, also the Southeast. Monsoon showers into the Four Corners, so keep that in mind. That comes fast and furious at times, and well above average in parts of the Intermountain West. That's going to add to that risk of wildfire. It's so dry, it's warm, it's windy, and we're going to see the chance for that fire elevation once again. Here's the tropics. We're looking at a development zone. It's been really quiet, which is good, but in a way, it's not good because what happens is we have storms moving through. They upwell the water. They bring up cooler water, so that cools down those sea surface temperatures. But we haven't had any storms in the past couple of weeks. So these waters remain very, very warm, bath-like, well above normal for this time of year. So any systems that come through could develop. And we had Saharan dust that was squelching any storms that were in place. That has since dissipated. So we are starting to get a little active once again, and we have a 50% chance of seeing a tropical development, a tropical depression as we head midweek. Let's talk about that heat. 28 million people impacted by heat alerts right now. We are looking at heat warnings, heat watches, heat advisories, all those colors on the map from Omaha to Wichita, Memphis, down to Shreveport, Jackson, and that's because we're going to be dangerously hot in these spots over the next couple of days. Denver, 97, well above normal for this time of year. Wichita into the triple digits, as well as El Paso. Lubbock, you're pretty close to the triple digits at 99. And then tomorrow, that heat expands, so it stays in place, but notice it expands. So Phoenix, we're at 107, Durango, 90 degrees, Sioux Falls near 90 degrees, and lots of triple digits once again on the map. Wichita, 104, 12 degrees above what is typical for this time of year. That is the air temperature. You factor in the humidity, we're going to feel warmer than that. Again, we're going to feel like 112, 113 in some spots, and places in Texas also into the triple digits with that high humidity as well. Plains staying warm as we go throughout the rest of the week. The middle of the week, we're looking at 96 in Denver, 97 on Thursday, 96 on Friday. Dallas, triple digits Thursday and Friday. Amarillo also looking at the triple digits Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. It's a warm one today. The Paris forecasts were about 6 hours ahead. They're 6 hours ahead, so they're warm already, but they're going to top out right around 88 degrees. Lots of sunshine. That gets a little tricky for the athletes outside when you get near the 90-degree mark. Even warmer tomorrow into the mid-90s, so we're going to watch that, especially tomorrow, and then we're going to bring back the chance for thunderstorms on Wednesday. Fire danger in the west. We have red flag warnings where we see the pink. So sort of dotting the Intermountain West here, Emily, and we could see the threat for more fires. And it's warm and it's dry. So that's going to be a real concern over the next couple of months, especially.
I love that you include the Paris forecast.
I know.
I'm already so jealous, though. They've got sunny skies.
I know.
Warm
and
day.
It looks so cool there, right? Like every picture, I'm like, why are we not there?
Yeah.
Next time.
Well,
It's in the
LA,
US. Yes.
2028, here we come. All right, count us in. All right, thanks so much, Michelle.
Sure.
As the election inches closer, the race between former President Trump and Vice President Harris is getting tighter. Some polls are now showing a dead heat between the two candidates just 1 week after Harris officially entered the race. Now, the Harris campaign and top Democrats are focusing a new line of attack against Trump and his running mate, J.D. Vance. NBC News Now anchor Hallie Jackson has the latest.
Hey there, good morning to you. The Harris campaign says it's raised $200 million in the week since she entered the race, a contest that polls show remains very close and looks different than it did just 8 days ago. Under 100 days from Election Day, Democrats and the Harris campaign now deploying a new adjective to blast the Republican ticket.
Some of what he and his running mate are saying, well, it's just plain weird.
I mean, on the other side, they're just weird.
partly fueled by controversy surrounding Mr. Trump's running mate, J.D. Vance.
It's not just a weird style that he brings. It's that this leads to weird policies.
Vance continuing to defend 2021 comments referring to some Democrats as childless cat ladies.
It's not a criticism of people who don't have children. This is about criticizing the Democratic Party for becoming anti-family and anti-child. It was a sarcastic comment. I've got nothing against cats.
The GOP vice presidential nominee also responding to attacks against his wife, Usha.
I love her because she's who she is. Obviously, she's not a white person, and we've been attacked by some white supremacists over that. But I love Usha. She's such a good mom. She's such a brilliant lawyer.
All while former President Trump campaigned in Minnesota Saturday, discussing the assassination attempt against him.
They all say, I think he's changed. I haven't changed. Maybe I've gotten worse, actually, because I get angry at the incompetence that I witness every single day.
Former President Trump now on defense for what he said Friday about voting.
Christians, get out and vote just this time. You won't have to do it anymore. 4 more years, you know what? It'll be fixed. It'll be fine. You won't have to vote anymore.
The Harris camp saying the former president is promising the end of our elections if he wins, a concern that echoes what Trump critic and former GOP Congresswoman Liz Cheney told Savannah last year.
Do you believe if Donald Trump were elected next year that he would try to stay in office beyond a second term? That he would never leave office?
There's no question.
You think he would try to stay in power forever?
Absolutely. I mean, he's already done it once.
The Trump campaign saying the former president was talking about the importance of faith and uniting this country. On the Democratic side, Vice President Harris has yet to pick a running mate of her own, but multiple sources tell NBC News that's expected to happen by August 7th, next Wednesday, as the Harris team vets potential nominees on a pretty compressed timeline. 2 of the possible contenders, including Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro, are set to rally for Harris later today outside Philadelphia. Back to you.
Hallie, thanks so much. Staying in politics, we know the presidential campaigns are spending lots of time in battleground states, but it gets even more granular than that. There are battleground counties which could swing the whole outcome of this year's election. 2 of them are Gwinnett County, Georgia, and Erie County, Pennsylvania, where the polls were showing President Biden and former President Trump neck and neck. NBC News national political correspondent Steve Kornacki explains how those polls could change with a Harris-Trump matchup.
Well, you know, there are more than 3,100 counties in the United States of America. But as we begin this final 100 days till Election Day, we have reduced this to 7 what we're calling decider counties. Each one tells an important story demographically about where the national race may be, where it may be going. And with Kamala Harris apparently set to replace Joe Biden as the Democratic nominee against Donald Trump, we thought we would look closely at 2 counties that loom particularly large now among this group of 7 decider counties. So let's start in the state of Georgia. You're looking at Gwinnett County. This is just outside of Atlanta in that big, fast-growing Atlanta metro area. And, of course, you know the story of Georgia, a Republican state until 2020, when Joe Biden flipped it by the narrowest of margins, just under 12,000 votes. Now, the story this time around in Georgia has been that Donald Trump has been polling much better against Biden before Harris switched into the race. The hope for Democrats with Harris entering the race is that a county like Gwinnett, you're going to see a big expansion of her support relative to Biden with black voters, because Gwinnett is one of the most racially diverse counties in Georgia. It's about 1/3 black. And the hope for Democrats is that Biden had been struggling a bit with black voters, that Harris doesn't, that she increases the black vote share relative to what Biden was getting, and that you'd see it in a place like Gwinnett. It's fast growing. It's getting more and more diverse. You could see just in 2016, it was a 6-point race in this county. Clinton over Trump, that exploded to 18 points. Biden over Trump. So Democrats are hoping they can expand this margin even further, and a key ingredient for them, if they do, is black voters. And again, the big picture hope for Democrats here is of all the core battleground states, Georgia, the polling in Georgia had looked particularly shaky for them. They're hoping, we'll see if this actually happens, that's another question, but Democrats are hoping that Harris's addition will change a place like Gwinnett and a state like Georgia. Now take a look at Pennsylvania. And again, any way you sort of slice the Electoral College math, Pennsylvania is extremely crucial, even among these battleground states, just because of its size, because of the number of electoral votes, the combinations it opens up and potentially shuts off for these candidates. Now, Erie County is one of only 2 counties in the entire state of Pennsylvania that switched between 2016, voted for Trump in 2016 to Biden, voted for Biden in 2020. Only 2 counties in Pennsylvania did. Of course, Pennsylvania itself as a state flipped from Trump in 2016 to Biden in 2020. So this is sort of one of the swing counties of the swing state, one of the key swing counties of the key swing state, and it's got a large blue-collar white population. White voters without college degrees, we talk about them so much, an area of growth for Republicans. Democrats have been doing worse and worse here with this demographic. The Erie County, you see a very large representation of that group of voters. And the question here for Kamala Harris is, can she make progress? Not just in a place like Gwinnett County, Atlanta, can she also do it in a place like Erie County, Pennsylvania? Because last 2 elections, as went Erie County, so went Pennsylvania.
All right, Steve, we'll be watching closely. Thanks so much. The Biden administration says it's pushing to stop the conflict between Israel and Hezbollah from escalating after Israel said it would respond to Saturday's rocket strike that killed 12 children in the Israeli-occupied Golan Heights. The victims were from the Druze community, an Arab sect that live mainly in Syria, Lebanon, and the occupied Golan Heights. NBC News international correspondent Raf Sanchez is there for us now. Raf, what can you tell us?
Hey, Emily. So these tensions began right here on this soccer field in the mountain village of Majd al-Shams. Normal Saturday night, a little bit after 6 p.m. Kids were playing here when all of a sudden the sirens started to blare. And just a couple of seconds later, that rocket came crashing down right here, killing these 12 children. You can see there is a memorial here with their faces with black rags tied up in this ripped up fence. And while this rocket brought death and destruction to this community, it's also setting the region on edge. This morning, rising fears of all-out war as Israel vows massive retaliation against Iranian-backed Hezbollah militants after this rocket attack on Saturday. 12 children killed playing on a soccer field. Israel says it's the worst attack against its civilians since October 7th. Hezbollah denying responsibility, but the IDF says the group fired from Lebanon into the Israeli-held Golan Heights. The U.S. condemning the attack, but urging restraint.
We stand by Israel's right to defend its citizens from terrorist attacks. We also don't want to see the conflict escalate.
The victims from the Druze religious minority buried in an emotional mass funeral, including 13-year-old John Ibrahim. His cousin Nia mourning him while also caring for her badly wounded younger brother.
I was gonna come to play and we will meet you at my grandma's house. I said, okay, don't be late and something. I closed the phone and boom, it's happened.
Everywhere, signs of a children's game cut brutally short. The kids' bikes, their 4x4s, are exactly where they left them, and you can see there's a bomb shelter just feet away from the soccer field, but there wasn't enough time to get to it, and it is riddled with shrapnel. A mountain village in mourning today for more young lives lost on all sides of this unforgiving war. Now, a little earlier, we saw an angry crowd gathering here protesting because they feel Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and the entire Israeli government did not do enough to protect these children. And all of this fighting on Israel's northern border is complicating U.S. efforts to try to finalize a ceasefire in Gaza. The CIA director was in Rome yesterday for hostage negotiations. We expect that there are going to be more talks later this week. But at this point, there's no sign of a breakthrough. Emily.
So many raw emotions. Raf, thank you so much. Much more to come on this hour of Morning News Now, including absolutely everything you might have missed from Team USA in Paris over the weekend. We've got all the highlights. Plus, mountain biking powerhouse Haley Batten joins us to talk about her silver medal win yesterday, clinching the best finish ever by an American, even though the race didn't go quite the way she planned. We'll bring you her reaction live after this. Welcome back. It was a banner opening weekend for Team USA at the Summer Olympics. Haley Batten made history by becoming the first American to win a silver medal in women's cross-country mountain biking. And this morning, we're lucky enough to be joined by Haley herself to talk about her experience in Paris. Haley, congratulations. You secured that silver medal and really what was remarkable fashion with a huge comeback. I saw the emotion on your face as you were crossing the finish line. How are you feeling this morning?
Oh gosh, it's crazy. Yeah, here we are, silver medal. Kind of amazing. I definitely, I believed that a medal was possible yesterday, but ever since crossing that finish line, my life's been a bit of a blur, just flying by, and to actually be able to execute on the day is kind of unbelievable. My family and friends are here as well, so to share with them after my first Olympics in Tokyo is just, yeah, it fills my heart for sure. It's absolutely insane, and the race was one of the most exciting races of my life.
Well, that belief was so evident because your race was not without drama. A punctured tire dropped you back into 6th place. What was going through your mind in that moment? How worried were you, and how did you push through?
Yeah, oh my gosh. So I had just caught the bronze medal position in the race, 3rd position, and I came through this rock garden so fast, so ready to get into the medal race part of the race, and I just hit this rock garden so fast and smashed my wheel. And luckily I was able to ride it all the way to the feed zone, and my mechanic did an incredible job. I think, maybe 10 seconds that he swapped it just a little bit faster, and I think something special came inside of me after that, and it was like my legs and my body was on fire. I had nothing to lose at that point, and I just raced absolutely as fast as I can, and I almost don't remember it. My body and mind were just racing, and I was fully immersed in the experience, and it's definitely the peak experience that you dream of, and is honestly a bit addicting. So there's nothing like being in the flow state like that, and it's insane.
It was an incredible show of mental and physical fitness. Now, I know you placed 9th at the Tokyo Games, and you said you weren't quite ready for competition then. You've also struggled with injuries. I know you suffered a concussion and an Achilles injury over the last year. How was your training changed, and what did you do differently to prepare for Paris?
Yeah, absolutely. I think for me, Tokyo was, the Olympics is something you can't explain until you've experienced it. The energy, the hype around it, all the excitement is something I think to go through my first Olympics and actually experience that. I just helped me so much coming into this Olympic Games. I knew that I wanted to be an Olympic medalist. I've prepared for that for years, but to have the experience in Tokyo and to be able to prepare for a medal this year, I think both mentally and physically, I've matured a lot as an athlete to get to this place, and I visualized and prepared so specifically for this event. Me and my coach planned everything around performance on the one day, which is hard to execute and nail it. So I'm lucky I work with the best coach and the best people around me to prepare me for that. But you're right, I think I've had a lot of challenges since Tokyo. I was a young rider then, and racing, it's almost like you just all of a sudden you're getting better and better and better, and you don't have those challenges that you do as a more mature rider. So in the last few years, I've had a lot of challenges to overcome, and I think those are actually what make you great, and they make you a better rider, and they make you a stronger athlete. So I feel really lucky that I had those challenges, and that they've made me stronger, and that I was able to overcome them the way I had. But yeah, it's not easy, and that's why being an athlete is so challenging and a special pursuit for sure. But
all right, Haley,
I was definitely my best yesterday. I'm lucky.
I mean, a silver medal is incredible, but it's also historic. So thank you so much for joining us. Congratulations times 1,000-fold on your historic win. We appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you so much. It was amazing.
And with the Summer Olympics in full swing, we're taking a look at all the best moments from an exciting opening weekend. Team USA has already been flashing the hardware with several historic finishes, adding to their medal count lead in the game so far. And with another busy day of competition ahead of us, we've got you covered with all the highlights and headlines coming out of Paris. Joining me now from the heart of it all of the Olympic hype is NBC News Now anchor Tom Llamas. Tom, good morning. We were treated to a jam-packed schedule of all the events I was watching all weekend long. Team USA really off to an early lead in the medal count. Bring us up to speed.
Yeah, they're doing so great. Emily, great to be with you this morning. I'm here live this morning at Roland Garros. This is the Palace of Clay, right? And right now, an incredible match happening that all these fans from all over the world want to watch. It's Novak Djokovic going up against Rafael Nadal. You can maybe hear the cheering going on right now. The reason why this match is so special, these two tennis legends have gone head-to-head about 60 times, and it's pretty much split right down the middle, with Novak having the lead by winning just one victory over Nadal. Many believe this will be their last match ever. That's just one of the many storylines coming out of the Paris Games right now. On top of that, of course, as you mentioned, Team USA is doing so well, dominating in the pool, and then also women's gymnastics off to a historic start, Emily.
We can hear the excitement behind you. What a contrast to Tokyo with all those millions of people descending on the city. We not only saw the Olympic return of Simone Biles, but plenty of American star power across several sports, who looks to be in gold medal form.
Yeah, let's talk about swimming first, because it was an exciting night in swimming. We're going to start with the 100-meter butterfly, right? You had two Americans, Tori Husk beating teammate Gretchen Walsh. They came so close. It came down to 0.04 of a second. I had a chance to speak to both swimmers right after that match. They were so happy that they finished 1 and 2, especially Tori, who told me she was just so emotional to sit on that podium, to look up at the American flag and knew she had won a gold medal. Also yesterday, we had Nick Fink. He tied for silver in the 100-meter breaststroke. Carson Foster coming in bronze in the 400 IM. Had a chance to speak with him. He said he just couldn't believe that he had a medal around his neck. He said he's going to remember that forever. And then over the weekend, we saw Katie Ledecky take bronze at her event. Caleb Dressel and the relay team, of course, coming out with a gold medal. We're so excited to watch them. Swimming's going to be very big tonight as we head into another week of the Olympics.
Yeah, I was really on the edge of my seat watching that men's freestyle relay. There are plenty of medals up for grabs today. What are the headlines going into the third day of events?
Yeah. All right, so we have a lot to watch tonight. We're actually going to watch men's gymnastics. It's the first time since Beijing 2008 they have a chance to medal in the team final. So that's going to be on Peacock and in primetime in NBC. Women's basketball chasing their 8th straight gold medal. You know they are just dominant in the sport. We're going to be watching them as well. As I mentioned, a lot of swimming happening in primetime as well. You can watch it on NBC. It's going to be another jam-packed night. I mean, the next few nights of the Olympics are some of the most exciting. And then even next week, we're going to have the basketball finals, sports like wrestling. It's just every night it really is getting better and better.
Tom Yamas, we know you'll keep us covered. Thank you so much. More international news now. A typhoon is being blamed for a deadly landslide in China. NBC News foreign correspondent Claudio Lavanga joins us with the latest on that and what other world headlines. Claudio, good morning.
Good morning, Emily. Well, that's right. Chinese state media says that about 15 people were killed in the southeast of China after a mudslide hit a homestay house there. Now, the state broadcaster CCTV says at least 21 people were staying in that house in the town of Yulin in Hunan province when the mudslide hit. Yulin is a mountainous town popular with tourists who want to escape the summer heat. The mudslide was triggered by heavy rains, which in turn were caused by a tropical storm linked to the recent typhoon Gaemi. And let's go to Japan now, where the U.S. announced its forces will be reconstituted in a move to deepen defense cooperation between the two countries. The announcement, made in Tokyo on Sunday by the U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin, the U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken, and their Japanese counterparts, is likely to be rebuked by China, which has increased its aggressive stance in the region. In a statement, Austin called it a historic decision and the most significant changes to U.S. forces Japan since its creation. And let's end this tour of the world in the Galapagos Islands in Ecuador, where its fragile ecosystem and the unique species that inhabit the archipelago are being threatened by the warming of the oceans. Its famous iguanas, for instance, are finding it harder to find their favorite algae, while another trademark species in the Galapagos, sea turtles, are struggling to nest in warmer temperatures. Now, Emily, we all know that the Galapagos inspired Charles Darwin's theory of evolution, so hopefully now it will inspire us to do something about climate change. Emily?
All right, Claudio, thank you so much for that. Coming up, a potential medical breakthrough that could dramatically change the way medical professionals detect Alzheimer's in patients. After the break, we'll bring you everything you need to know about the new blood test that might soon be available and why some might be more accurate than others. The doctor is in next. Welcome back. A new option to help diagnose Alzheimer's disease may soon be coming to doctors' offices. According to research from Lund University and published in the medical journal JAMA, blood tests allow primary care doctors to detect the characteristics of the most common form of dementia faster and more accurately. Joining us now for more on this is NBC News medical fellow Dr. Akshay Syal. Dr. Syal, good morning. Thank you so much. We know millions of people have Alzheimer's, so a lot of eyes on this. Walk us through this latest research. How are these blood tests outperforming current testing options?
Hey, Emily, good morning. So just for some background for people, when we talk about Alzheimer's disease, one of the things that we focused on really in the medical world is buildup of abnormal proteins, Emily, these proteins called tau or amyloid. And really what we've been searching for a while now is how can we take these proteins that we think play a part in disease and kind of pick up on them earlier than we have been now, and so people can intervene early potentially. And so what these blood tests are looking for, Emily, is essentially those proteins in the brain that are associated with Alzheimer's. Can we find them in the blood? Can we see them a little bit earlier than the brain? Because it is something that, to see in the brain, it is an expensive test. So we're looking sort of for a way to screen earlier. And Emily, this test now showing 90% accuracy, actually performing better than primary care physicians, better than neurologists in terms of actually detecting the disease. So really a lot of hope on the horizon there.
Yeah, it's pretty head-turning. These tests have not been approved, I should mention, by the FDA. So I think a big question right now is which tests can we trust?
Right. So the gold standard right now is really, you see your primary care physician. If they pick up on signs of memory loss, they often send you to a neurologist where they can perform, further testing. And right now it's too early to say this blood test is the new gold standard, Emily. So what we recommend now is, getting a full workup. And it can include things like a, MRI of the brain, or just more specialized testing with a neuropsychologist. But for now, what we're really looking for, Emily, is a way to screen people kind of like we do with mammograms and colonoscopies, something as easy as a blood test that could potentially pick up on this disease years before we are able to right now.
Is there a level of patient to patient depending on who should and shouldn't be using the blood tests?
Yeah, I think the big caution right now, Emily, is some of these tests you can actually get, online and through a prescription, and they're expensive. They're not really covered by insurance. And what we don't want people doing is people who are relatively young ordering these blood tests and finding some abnormalities and sort of freaking out and getting anxious that down the line I may develop memory loss. These tests aren't really approved for that. And even if those tests do come out abnormal, there's no guarantee that you actually develop Alzheimer's. So for those out there who are just the worried well, I really want to stay away from these right now until we figure out more.
And speaking of the FDA, this morning the agency approved a blood test to screen for colon cancer. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah. So, Emily, the big thing with colon cancer is that we don't actually get enough people screened. I think only about 60% of people who should get screened for colon cancer actually get screened. And so what we've been looking for is for ways for sort of non-invasive, because if you think about what a colonoscopy is, it can be uncomfortable. I can't tell you the amount of patients who tell us, I'll think about it. I don't know if I really want to go through that. And what we've been looking for is a way to get more people screened. And a blood test here approved by the FDA offers some potential. If it is abnormal, you still do need to get a colonoscopy, but it is a good first step for a lot of people who are just too scared or too uncomfortable with the notion of getting screened right now.
All right, Dr. Akshay Syal, keeping us covered on all medical fronts of news. Thank you so much. Childcare, reproductive rights, and family leave. These are just some of the central issues that seem to have voters divided ahead of the November election. As NBC News national correspondent Yasmin Vasugian explains, one group of mothers has made it their mission to bridge that gap and highlight the power of being a mom.
A jaw-dropping moment in a debate with many.
What would you do to make childcare more affordable?
Just to go back, the general got fired because he was no good.
There was a real movement to have a question in the presidential debate around childcare, and neither candidate answered. And that was hurtful.
This guy hasn't fired anybody.
No one wants to screw around with us. Nobody.
Biden finally got a few words in on the topic.
He did for virtually nothing to childcare. We should significantly increase the childcare tax credit.
But it didn't impress Erin Ehrenberg, a co-founder of Chamber of Mothers.
There are a lot of representatives and congresspeople who are not thinking about these issues. We want to give the power back to moms.
Erin, alongside Raina Boston and others, are working to make issues affecting moms front and center in the upcoming election.
Look up their candidates. Are they even talking about paid leave? Are they talking about maternal health? Are they talking about the cost of childcare?
Through voter registration drives and a nonpartisan message, Chamber of Mothers hopes to reach millions of moms and engage them as a bona fide voting bloc.
In the pandemic, mothers put this country on their backs and made it so that we did not incur economic collapse. That's power.
But voting like a mother or on any issues surrounding family often becomes political in today's heated culture wars.
I think it is you, the women, who have had the most diabolical lies told to you.
Remember this controversy?
He disrespected his wife and stay-at-home moms everywhere.
Mothers across America took to Twitter proclaiming they like being mothers.
And these comments from J.D. Vance resurfacing after he was named Trump's running mate.
We're effectively run in this country via the Democrats, via our corporate oligarchs, by a bunch of childless cat ladies.
A recent Pew Research poll shows a major gap in the way voters view government policy around the family, with 59% of Trump supporters saying society is better off making marriage and having children a priority versus only 19% of Biden supporters. The Chamber of Mothers says that's all just noise.
From do you formula feed? Are you breastfeeding? Do you work outside of the home? Are you a full-time mom? And we say that all of that is just a false divide.
Right now, there is no federally protected paid family leave. And according to the Center for American Progress, over half of Americans live in a child care desert, meaning very few options, often unaffordable.
And that's just not how we want to run our country.
This group of moms came together after paid family leave was cut from President Biden's Build Back Better legislation in 2021. And now 3 years later remain committed not only to the issues, but the power of being a mom.
We're united in that vision. We activate moms to create change around that, and we're here to stay.
Thanks to Yasmin Basugian for that report. Another topic that's expected to be a major issue in the upcoming election is climate change. Vice President Harris cast the tie-breaking vote to pass President Biden's $269 billion climate bill, but former President Trump says he would repeal that law along with many of President Biden's environmental regulations. NBC's national climate reporter Chase Kane takes a look at how climate activists are viewing the election with Kamala Harris now in the picture.
Milwaukee, only 5 days apart, two distinct views on climate change.
He literally promised big oil companies, big oil lobbyists, he would do their bidding for $1 billion in campaign donations.
We will drill, baby, drill.
The same phrase appears in the official Republican platform calling for an expansion of oil and gas production, the liquid gold under our feet, which would further heat the planet. And despite that clear divide, some climate activists never fully supported President Biden. A protest through Manhattan last fall highlighted views he didn't do enough to stop our use of fossil fuels.
Pass the torch, Biden.
And that dissatisfaction continued until last week in Washington.
We need a new generation of leadership, people who are articulate and bold and passionate and who can fight for us. Joe Biden is too old to really fight the fight. He's done some good things for the environment with the Inflation Reduction Act, but his time has come.
And since the president stepped aside, a number of climate action groups have enthusiastically lined up to support Kamala Harris. But what makes her more appealing than Biden? Well, one reason dates back to 2005, when as San Francisco district attorney, Harris created an Office for Environmental Justice. And that was before some first-time voters this year were even born.
Yeah, she has a history, and I think specifically she has a history around holding big oil accountable in a way that we haven't been able to do in the last 4 years.
Aru is the executive director of the Sunrise Movement and highlights Harris's opposition to oil, coal, and gas, the primary drivers of climate change. In 2015 and 2016, as California Attorney General, Harris investigated and sued oil and gas companies. In 2019, she became an early sponsor of the Green New Deal. And in 2020, Harris campaigned against fracking and offshore drilling.
Okay, Kamala Harris wins, first 100 days in office. These are the big things she's got to tackle with climate change first. What's at the top of your list?
Oh, that's such a good question. I would love to see a bill that really puts forward how tackling climate change can decrease our cost of living and improve our lives. I think that includes housing, education, and jobs first and foremost. So I think that there is a really big chance that we're able to get bigger wins under a Harris administration.
And support from voters who prioritize climate change could prove pivotal in a close election, because a University of Colorado analysis found that, quote, climate change opinion probably cost Republicans the 2020 presidential election. In California, I'm national climate reporter Chase Kane.
Coming up, you could call it the American dream in reverse. After the break, why young first-generation Americans are packing up and leaving the U.S. in search of a better life abroad. Those stories and much more up next. Welcome back. Let's get to some money news. And the Apple is pumping the brakes on the rollout of some new AI features. CNBC's Silvana Henao has more on that and some other dollar sign headlines. Hey there, Silvana.
Hey, Emily, good morning. Yeah, so Apple's new artificial intelligence features will actually be arriving a little later than expected, missing the initial launch of the new iOS 18 software for the iPhone and iPad in September. Bloomberg reports the delay will give Apple more time to fix bugs. Now, the company plans to start rolling out Apple Intelligence to customers as part of software updates by October. It's National Chicken Wing Day, and restaurant chains are offering plenty of deals at Buffalo Wild Wings. If you make an online order of at least $10, you'll get a voucher for 6 free wings with the purchase of a burger on your next visit. At Popeyes, when you buy one order of boneless or bone-in wings, you can get another 6-piece order for $1. And Wingstop is giving out 5 free wings with any purchase when you use the code FREEWINGS at checkout online or through the app. And, well, you're going to need some dessert to go with those wings. Krispy Kreme is celebrating the summer games with a Go for the Glaze promotion. First, on Wednesday, you can get $1 donuts in any variety at stores with no limit while supplies last. Now, while you're there, you can reward yourself with the new Go USA Donuts collection, available as a limited time dozen during the games in store or for pickup and delivery.
Okay, well, now I'm officially hungry. We've got the wings,
well,
we've got the donuts.
Oh, my God, yes.
I guess I'll start with the donut.
Dessert. Yeah, I was going to say, I think I'd like to start with dessert.
Yeah, it is, the morning. So, yeah, all right. Silvana, thank you so much. That was a good one. A growing number of young first-generation Americans are abandoning their parents' idea of the American dream. Many Gen Zers are looking overseas for the potential of a better lifestyle than what the States can provide. NBC News reporter Maya Eaglin spoke with 2 who are packing their bags for good.
I thought I would fall in love with America and the American dream of, progressing and making something of yourself and feeling proud. I came to the realization recently that I actually didn't want this life. I'm very accepting of that dream being dead, and I'm just ready to make new dreams.
Rania Saleh is a first-gen American. She was born in the U.S. Her parents are Palestinian. After struggling with job security and her health, she's decided to pack up her entire life and leave the U.S. for good.
I graduated, immediately started working, but I have lupus, so my go was kind of forcibly stopped.
She shared her story of living with an autoimmune disease on TikTok.
America does cause a lot of health issues and exacerbates autoimmune diseases.
And it drew over 2.5 million viewers.
What made you realize you needed to leave? I think the past 5 months where I hit 500 job applications, I got so depressed because I blamed myself. One day I was just speaking to my father, and he actually suggested, he's like, you're not stuck there. You know that, right?
So Rania is moving to Qatar with a pit stop in Turkey. She says the financial stress here was another big reason she decided to leave.
On a day-to-day, it looks like your friend's asking you out to eat, and you say, actually, I can't. It's going to the grocery store and looking for the deals.
Though inflation shows signs of cooling, food prices are almost 23% higher than they were 4 years ago. And rent has steadily increased since the pandemic, too, with the national median monthly cost for an apartment clocking in at almost $2,000.
Do you think there are any rights that you'll be giving up once you move to Qatar? I am going to a semi-conservative monarchy. That being said, I am happy to give up my right to vote as a trade for a significantly better quality of life.
It's hard to change, but it's sometimes harder to stay where you're at.
Michael Christian is currently living in Maryland. His parents are from Antigua. He joined the Marine Corps after being recruited in high school, but he says everything changed while he was serving in Saudi Arabia in 2021.
I had contracted leukemia while I was there. Obviously, I wasn't sick prior to getting there. You get diagnoses like that. It could be stress, it could be lack of sleep, it could be, like toxic exposure, dietary, changes while I was going through a war. So
he says after struggling with finding work outside the military, dealing with discrimination, and not having the quality of life he wants in the U.S., he's ready for a new start in Austria next year and then plans to move to Spain. One study by the UN estimates that about 3 million Americans live abroad. Rania and Michael say they will be keeping their American citizenship for the flexibility of world travel, which also means they'll still pay U.S. taxes. But they say they're excited to remove themselves from American politics.
So do you think you'll vote at all in November?
Probably not. Probably not.
Even if I had stayed, I wouldn't have voted in that election either. I think we're seeing that no matter which party is in power, it's kind of the same system. I think we have the illusion of freedom in America.
Our thanks to Maya Eaglin for that report. Coming up, our continuing coverage of the latest and greatest out of Paris this morning. After the break, we're going for gold with a closer look at how those magnificent medals are made. Our Lester Holt brings us inside the magic next. Well, that was the dramatic moment Robert Downey Jr. announced to San Diego Comic-Con that he is returning to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. The actor will play villain Dr. Doom in Avengers Doomsday. As fans will know, his old character, Tony Stark, a.k.a. Iron Man, died at the end of Avengers Endgame. So there's a lot of speculation about how Marvel will make this whole storyline come together. But we'll have to wait nearly 2 years to find out. Avengers Doomsday doesn't drop until May 2026. Talk about a tease. All right, and we end this hour with a closer look at the prized Olympic medals. NBC Nightly News anchor Lester Holt explains how the medals came to be and what went into making this year's hardware, literally.
It's the moment every Olympic athlete dreams of. The culmination of years of work, a medal around their neck, a forever reminder of the moment they were among the best in the world. They've been an Olympic staple for more than a century. This collection on display in Paris for the Games dates back to 1896. But there was one big difference back then.
There's only 2 of those medals right now. Why? Because it was originally just a silver and a bronze.
There was never a plan for a gold.
There was never a plan for a gold in 1896. However, in 1900, in the Paris Games, they introduced the gold medal, but it wasn't gold. It was gilt silver.
The gold, silver, and bronze winners here will carry a piece of Paris with them forever. An original piece of iron from the Eiffel Tower embedded in each medal. They were designed by iconic Parisian jewelry designer Chaumet.
And we want to welcome them, of course, and we want them to go back home with perhaps which is the most precious thing for us. So this is really an honor for us.
The iron saved during renovations.
We asked the Eiffel Tower where was those pieces, and they gave them to us.
Even the ribbons designed to mirror the lattice on the tower.
La médaille devait représenter Paris, ville lumière.
The ultimate souvenir from the Paris 2024 Games.
To get to an Olympic level, you really are the best of the world. And then to win a medal, there's no other larger moment.
Just fascinating. Our thanks to Lester for that report. That does it for this hour of Morning News Now. The news continues right now.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.